last week on Brago 24/7.
I had an older brother that I met when I was younger. I knew of him my whole life, but I met him when I was about 15, and he came to stay at my grandmother's with me and my sisters. Some stuff happened, and he left. And after that, I was like, I'm going to find him when I grow up. I'm going to hire a detective. I'm going to find my brother. And then I found out that he had died of a drug overdose. And I always wanted a brother. And so I had him for this little short period of time, and then he was gone. And it crushed all my dreams of finding him, But then they lost their brother, their only brother. And that was, I was close to him too, but not like they were. Like they were very close to him.
Who was it? Your dad's son, or whose son?
Yeah, it was my dad's son.
Did you ever see your dad again? Like, how did that happen?
So,
we kind of.
Oh yeah.
I was just listening to you talk, but I have so many questions. Hi, I am your host, Leonette Talley, and you are listening to Virago 24/7. Virago is Latin for female warrior, and 24/7 is for all day, every day. Virago 24/7 is a weekly podcast that brings diverse women together to talk about life and our experiences in this world. We share our views on self-love, mental health, marriage, children, friendships, and really anything that needs to be talked about. Here, you will find everyday growth, everyday healing with everyday warriors. Just give me my space to move. It's my thoughts, what I want, and I want what I want. I got out of prison when I was 20, and he met a woman right away. My mom was with another man. He met a woman right away. They got married, and they moved to Florida. So from that time, from when I was 20 until he died in January. Yeah, she's psycho.
My step grandmother.
Oh, yeah, she's a bee.
She's psycho. Oh, she's for real. Like I got a text a couple months.
Well, you
ago.
have to be psycho to marry someone. No offense to your father, but to marry someone who just got out of prison.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but she was not like okay herself. But so he went back to jail a couple of different times after that for prescription fraud and stuff like that. But essentially, like he lived in Florida. One time he did come up here to see me. I think I had just gotten out of jail.
Yeah.
And he came to see me, and Briana and Morgan and Jessica were really little. And I remember he was saying, I had gotten him a hotel close to where we lived. And I remember knocking on the hotel room door the next morning. My mom answered the door in a bathrobe. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like, you're married. Like, what's going on? And what did my dad say? I wore a
raincoat.
Yeah, and Briana did not know what that meant for
until
like years.
Literally like a month ago. We just talked about that.
Yeah,
he meant a condom.
Yeah,
my whole fucking life. I was imagining my grandmother and my grandfather having sex with him in a yellow raincoat. I swear to Jesus. I didn't know what that meant. Even as it was like a month ago that we had this conversation.
Okay, wait. So he opens the door and he's like, "Well, I wore a raincoat."
Well, the reason is
my mom had hepatitis C.
That's why.
Oh my!
So I was like, "Dad, what are you doing? Like, are you trying to get?"
Yeah.
No mom has Hep C, and he's like, I wore a raincoat. Well, I guess my child was standing right there, the one that listens
until yesterday. You thought it was a literal raincoat.
A month ago, and I'm 29 years old. Okay,
we were having a conversation about it,
and for years, I'm like, how the hell does that protect against hepatitis C? A yellow raincoat. That's what I pictured. My grandparents. I swear to you. And then I was telling my husband about it recently.
Bless you.
I know. I was telling my husband about it recently, and I was on the phone with my mom while I was telling, and I was like, yeah, my grandfather was wearing a raincoat. And I was like, a condom. And I'm like, are you shitting me? All this time.
Yeah.
That's
I thought
hilarious.
So there's probably a lot of stuff that I left out, but
okay, let's backtrack because you glossed over this. We went from I was married and I was with men, and then there's a girlfriend, and we did drugs together. Where did is she?
Okay, so
Prison.
What's up with the girlfriend thing? What's up?
It's a whole nother story. So my whole life, like since I was a little kid, I always knew that I liked girls. But I didn't think that I could be with a girl because I was such a frou-frou. Like I was very, dresses and I'm like, I couldn't be with another chick because like that wouldn't work. I never had girlfriends, always had guy friends. Well, when I was in prison, I saw the relationships between females and I was like, oh my God, like I could do that. I want that, So I met this lady, older lady.
Crazy.
She was older, 11 months. She was 11 years older than me. And we ended up becoming, girlfriends or whatever. And when she got out a year before me, and she waited on me for a year. And the day that I got out, she came and got me from prison. And I was gonna move in with my mom and Macon with the kids, and ended up moving in with her and her parents and my kids. And,
My mother, okay? So this random lady, we're living in Kansas City with my dad, and he's off his rocker. Mm-hmm. And my mom's in prison, and all of a sudden there's this friend, and this best friend, and this friend, and this friend. And she's sending us letters, she's sending us disposable cameras to take pictures so that she could develop them and send them to my mom.
Because I hadn't had any pictures
I'm like,
of my
wow,
kids.
what a good effing friend. Like, oh my God. So then my mom gets out of prison, and it was the first time I had seen her in damn near 5 years.
Yeah.
And she comes and she's like, yeah, my friend. And I'm like, wait a second. This is not your friend, because and my mom and I knew.
They
I'm like,
locked me in the bedroom. My 3 daughters, she had left. She dropped me off and she left, my girlfriend. My 3 daughters locked me in the room, and then
well, it didn't help that. Yeah, you could tell. And I'm like, Mom, this is not your friend. I'm like, is this your girlfriend? And that's how I found out my mom was a lesbian.
Yeah, and Morgan says, we're all 3 sitting there, and I'm looking at my kids like, what the hell? Because I wasn't going to tell my kids for a while. Like, I was going to get home first, and then, because I didn't want them to be like, yeah, my mom turned gay in prison, because that's not the way that it was.
I still tell it that way because it's funnier.
I had been with women before, but never in a relationship. So Morgan, we're all sitting there, and they're questioning me, and I feel like I'm back in the interrogation room. And Morgan says, well, I'm not calling her daddy. And we all just bust out laughing. So the next morning she comes to get me, because they're still living with their grandfather. He has custody of them. So the next morning, she comes to get me, and they're like, Daddy, jumping up on her. So roll forward like a couple of weeks. Briana was 17. So I'm like, look, I'm taking Briana. Like, I'm taking Morgan and Briana. But, Jessica was of age, and she was still with her dad. But she ended up coming. And then I was like, I'm taking Briana, and I'm going to get Morgan. So he was like, you're going to have to fight me for Morgan. You're not getting Morgan. And Morgan was only 14. So I was like Googling lawyers, and I called this random lawyer, and I was like telling him my situation. How much would he charge me to hire him? I need to get my child back. And he was like, give me this man's name and number. He called him and told him he was my lawyer. I had a conversation on the phone with this man. They had to be God. Not that he was God, but I had a conversation on the phone. Never met this man, never paid him a dime. He called him and told him, look, we're about to take you to court. I'm her lawyer, blah, blah, blah. So he calls me back, and he's like, all right, well, I'm going to let her come live with you. But if anything happens, I'm coming back to get her, So then Morgan got to come live with me, and we're living with my girlfriend and her parents, and we're looking for a place to live, and her parents end up buying us the house across the street from theirs. Even though they didn't even admit that she was gay, they called me her friend.
Her special friend.
Yeah. So my 3 daughters and I moved in with my girlfriend, who had never had children, who was a spoiled, rotten brat, into a house that her parents paid cash for. And I mean, life was good for a while. For a while, it was good, and then it became like the kids go to their room, we go to our room, nobody talks to anybody, and then Maddox came, and it was...
And I met Ivan.
Maddox came, and it was the best. Like, I remember my girlfriend and Ivan calling me, like, Miss Dawn, you gotta talk to her and have an abortion, like, blah, blah, blah. And I remember my ex-girlfriend saying, you're letting your daughter effing ruin her life, and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, well, I'm having a grandbaby. I was so excited. And they lived with us for a while, that story. And it was great. And then Briana saw through my girlfriend and saw who she really was, and Briana was not having it. And it was just a constant fight because I had been away from my kids for so long, and now my daughter is literally like moving away and trying not to talk to me because of the person I'm with. So I decided to leave that situation, but I moved into another situation, and it went like that for some years. I've been single for the last 2 years, which is crazy to me because I've been in a relationship since I was 14. In the last 2 years, I've really learned who I am, things I like, and I've been able to focus on me. And
did you feel like when you're, going from relationship to relationship, was there something that you were trying to fill? Because I always wonder, like, how there's some people out there that just have to be with somebody and they have to be in a relationship. What is that?
I think a lot of it was just codependent, abandonment stuff. I felt like I always had to be with somebody. I had my kids, and my kids would always tell me, like, why can't we be enough? And that would break my heart. But it's a different kind of thing. But the relationships that I ended up getting into were so bad that I couldn't be there for my kids. Like, my girlfriend was so possessive. It was just terrible. And so if I wanted to not fight when I got home, I had to kind of do what she wanted. And so it caused a lot of issues with my children. My comparison is, if you take a 5-year-old and you put them in gymnastics, soccer, football, whatever, by the time they're in their 30s, they're going to be a hell of a whatever, and I was a trained criminal. I think that's why I don't look down on people that sold their bodies, but I never had to do that because I knew how to steal, and not just steal clothes and stuff like that, but like generators and, I never stole cars, but I knew how to make money, and the guy that was my dealer for so many years, he would call me every Christmas, like, with a list, a black Michael Kors purse with this on it, this perfume, this, and I would get it all.
You would go get it?
I would go get everything. It didn't matter if it was under lock and key.
And you did it for drugs?
Yeah, well, and money. Started out, I had a little dealer that would go to the drug dealers and get me drugs. Well, I was getting stuff, like, well, what does your drug dealer want? Well, he wants this, this, and this. So I would get it, and then he would give it to the drug dealer and give me whatever he gave me. He'd probably keep some for himself. Well, one day, the big drug dealer's like, I want to meet her. And I'm sitting in the car, and he's like, he wants to meet you. And I'm like, I don't want to meet him. I was scared of people like that. Because when I was little, my mom would take me to the high-rise penthouses in Atlanta, and there would be men with guns. And they thought I was so cute. They'd give me $100 bills, but they were like mafia people. They were like serious people, like big guns standing at the door. And so I was scared of drug dealers. I never hung out at drug houses. I would get my stuff and go. But after he wanted to meet me, so I met him, and he was like, well, can you get this? Can you get that? And I'm like, I can get anything you want. But I didn't steal cars. But
my dad did.
Yeah. But like any kind
Did they ask for cars?
No.
They're just stuff
any
that you
kind
can
of
get
like
at a store.
tools, like DeWalt tools, generators, purses for their wives, anything like that. I would go. It didn't matter if it was under lock and key. I would get it, and I would take it to him, and he would give me cash. And the the weird part, it's not funny, but at the time it was funny, is that the drug dealers always owed me money because they wouldn't have what I wanted when I bring the stuff that they wanted. Because if they told me, you know, my wife wants this perfume and this purse and all this, you know, I'm charging them, you know, a percentage of what it's worth. And they'd be like, well, I got an ounce of this and I got this much cash, but I'll get you next time, you know. So people are always like, are you on the run from drug dealers? Do you owe? No, they're on the run from me. They owe me. And they really did. Like but they all, of course they loved me because their Christmas was cut in half. And when they had a baby, I mean, like, oh, your baby needs shoes, like 14 pairs of, you know, Nikes and whatever, you know.
And you just knew how to go into these stores
and act like I wasn't doing it, because I would dress nice. I would act like I wasn't doing a damn thing.
She went into Circuit City one day. You remember Circuit City?
Yeah.
Like the big electronics store?
Yeah.
She literally went up to one of the guys. Correct me if I'm telling this wrong. She literally went up to one of the guys and was like, I bought that TV. It was like a TV on the wall. Can you load it in my car for me?
That is a true story.
He loaded the TV in the car for her, and she just
because you dressed up, you just knew how to play the part.
I did not look like a criminal, and I remember a judge telling me, "Your looks are not going to get you by in this courtroom." And I remember I was devastated. Like, what are you talking about? You know, but I mean, I looked like Morgan.
Yeah,
you know, and I would dress up, and nobody would have thought that I was. Even if I had picked up something right in front of you, you wouldn't think that I didn't pay for it some other way, or that I didn't work there, or that I didn't, you know, that was just.
I mean, but you were doing this since you were what, 5?
Yes, and that's what I always tell people. Like, you know,
you were pretty much born into it.
My ex-wife was, you know, she was very sexual, and she could have sex with random people, like, you know, just meet somebody and have sex with them. And she told me one time, she said, I can't imagine ever stealing anything like how. And I said, well, I can't imagine having sex with someone I didn't know. So that's how I related it to her. And she was like, that makes sense, you know, because most people can't imagine doing what I did. But I can't imagine being a prostitute, and not that I judge, because I don't, because everybody's got their story. But that's one thing I never did. I was a exotic dancer for a while when I was younger. And when I was in my 30s, I did it. But I stopped doing it because I was just tired of the freaking nasty old men, you know, and the comments and I never let anybody touch me. I never had sex for money a day ever in my life. I've never been promiscuous, but had I not known how to do what I knew how to do, maybe I wouldn't have gone so far with it. Maybe I wouldn't have become a criminal, or maybe I would have sold my body, you know, but,
just random thought that I always have, like with criminals, the planning and like the intelligence that has to go behind the mastermind of this. I wouldn't be able. Look at you shaking your head. I've always thought, man, if criminals can take that energy and that intelligence and that.
Can I tell you that my daughter has that? My daughter has the mind to do anything like I did. My daughter's Briana is very, very smart.
She is.
Briana could have at some point ended up like that, because if she'd ever got that in her system, she'd have been way better than I was. I always say that they're better versions of me. They're smarter. They're pretty. They're great people. Briana could have been a prosecutor. Morgan could be on every magazine cover. You know, it's just Jessica. I love you, Briana.
Briana's like, what about me? Well, you're like 2 feet tall.
Briana's beautiful.
You're gorgeous, but she's beautiful. But Morgan is tall.
Yeah. Morgan is.
You need the height, but you are gorgeous, my daughter.
Yes.
She's like, Briana would have been a damn good criminal. Morgan would have been a damn good model.
No, that's not what I did.
No, I just always wonder about that. Like why not put that? Like your dad sounds like he was on a step ahead.
Yeah,
why not put that energy into like a job,
right?
And a career?
smart. That's what people would always tell me, like, Dawn, you're smart. Why don't you use your brain and, like, get a job? And I'm like, a job? What? I didn't
I think when that's all you know, right?
Yeah.
Like,
it really was.
It makes sense about you, but you said your dad did not, and your mom didn't come from that.
So my dad, I think that my dad, he had a broken home. I mean, his mom and dad were divorced, but that's half the country, you know. Well, my dad, when he was 18, he had a really bad accident and he almost died.
Okay.
Well, he did die legally, but they brought him back. Wow. But I believe that my mom had always said that she felt like something happened in his brain. And my mom was just kind of like, whatever you want. Mm-hmm. But the weird thing is all those years I thought my dad was this master criminal and my mom was following him around like a lost puppy. When my mother died, I found her rap sheet in her stuff at my house. Mm-hmm. And it looked almost identical to mine. I'm looking up at the ceiling. I'm like, Mom, you didn't tell me you had all these, charges, like all these years and all these things that you did. It looked just like mine. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, she never told me.
Wow.
I feared with Jessica a lot that Jessica was going to end up like me because Jessica was really street smart. She wasn't that intelligent, but she was smart, and I was afraid that she was going to try that route, and she was trying that route. As a matter of fact, she had just gotten her first felony charge. She was 27, just like me, and she had gotten a felony charge. And I said, Jessica, you're going to get probation for this, and there's no way you can do probation. They called me the day after she died and told me that she had a court date the following Monday, and I had to send them her death certificate. But I feel like Jessica was on that track. And so sometimes I feel like God saved her because she didn't have any kids. And I feel like God saved her from that life because I don't know that she would have been okay. I don't know I feel like, as hard as it is to say, I feel like that was predestined because, and Briana and I talked about this recently, and this is really hard for me to say, but Jessica was away from me from 9 to 18. And so I feel like that was something that God knew was going to happen in the future. And that's why we were reunited before she was with me from 19 till she died. But I feel like, I don't know. I just, I feel like that was predestined, my mom and my daughter, because right before my mom died, I was distraught over a relationship. This person that I loved, Julie, she had left me, and I was so distraught I couldn't function. Like, I could barely go to work. I could barely function. And my mom would always say, please just spend some time with me, and I would, Mom, I'm sorry, I just can't, and I was staying with my other ex because I just couldn't be alone. And I was on the way to her house one night and I had a really bad accident, and I felt like God was telling me to stop and slow down, like something was about to happen. Looking back on it, I see that, but at the time I didn't. So I stayed at my ex's because I couldn't walk and stuff. It was a really bad accident. So I stayed at my ex's house, and then my mom died. And then Jessica, so it was like, I felt like God was telling me to, because for a while I felt like God did that to get my attention. Mm-hmm. I'm like, why would God take my mother and my daughter to get me to wake up? Like, I'm not that special. Like, why would he do that? But the thing is that he knew that was going to happen. So that's why he was trying to tell me to stop and look at what was going on around me. And I just didn't.
I mean, I know you can tell story after story after story, but I feel like that's a lot. It's it's interesting because we've talked to Bree, and she gave us her version, and then hearing it from you, it kind of brings all of it together, and it makes sense. Yeah. And I'm so happy that, because I know Briana had a very hard time letting you back in. So it makes my heart happy to see the two of you.
Me too.
Like on solid ground.
And there's still healing to do. There's still things that Morgan and Briana have been through that I don't know about. And I'm hoping at some point that they can, it's really hard to hear, like even just hearing like family members mistreating them or whatever, when I was gone, it's really hard because, Brianna's a mama bear and I was like that. But then when it was out of my control, I just wanted to kill everybody who had ever said a mean thing to my child, but I couldn't, So it's really hard to hear little bits and pieces. But I know that Morgan and Briana have a lot of stories and healing. Briana has, I know Briana in particular, Morgan, it might not have manifested yet because she doesn't have kids, but Briana has a lot of abandonment stuff. And she's always worried about if her kids are going to feel any type of way, and I know why she does, because I was the exact same. I'm still that way. Like I still worry about them, but I'm so happy that Briana, they are amazing, both of them. They've come out of all of this trauma, like on top of the world. And I look at them and I think, they're everything. They're the best.
Yeah.
So.
You're emotional. You're emotional. What's up?
I don't know. I think it just puts it into perspective. Maybe I don't know that we've never
had an in-depth conversation like this.
And
it's one thing to know the stories, right? But to actually hear it from your parent and see the struggle and the hurt.
I think more than anything, like the majority. So the way she talks about her mother is how I was with her. Mm-hmm. Like she was always on a pedestal. She could never do any wrong in my life, in my eyes. And all I wanted when I was young was her. Like I would wake up just like in the middle of the night being a child and just bawling my eyes out. Like, I want my mom. And then whenever I had my oldest, Maddox, at 18, it went from like sadness from being a child and then to just like having her home again back around when I was 17 and just like kind of forgetting all the past. And then the second my son was born, it was like I hated her because I couldn't fathom. And I was so angry. I was so angry. And then we all know I went through my depression and then, I turned to alcohol to heal the trauma so I can kind of understand, not to that extent, but I can understand like turning to something. And I can't, right now I can't fathom, like, no offense, but I can't fathom choosing drugs over my kids or a man over my kids. But at the same time, like after tonight hearing that, what my husband is a saint. Like, I mean, he gets on my damn nerves sometimes, but what if I would have met somebody like my dad, right? Like in such a tough time and a depressed time and a vulnerable time. I can't imagine had I met someone like my dad, it
would have turned out differently.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so,
because it sounds like you were trying to, every person that you've been around, you're trying to please them. You were trying to help your dad and please him. And then the men and then the women, it's like you're always wanting that validation. If I do this.
Take care of everybody.
Yeah.
Like,
and although
and you have that spirit too.
Yeah, I do. And I think I'm just like in disbelief that my life turned out the way it did. Because like I said, had I met a man like my father, things could be different. Yeah. And then I had, as soon as I had Maddox, I had so many people that were guiding me and helping me through all of this. You and Dr. Talley, who I consider to be my dad, and Mushka, and it's just it puts it in perspective, I think. And I know what it's like to feel guilt, like to make mistakes as a mother and then feel guilt, because I have that with Maddox, not to the same extent, but I do have that. And I want you to forgive yourself, because I think we obviously can't change the past and like what you did and things like that. Ultimately, we wish things would have been different. But I think to see you come out of it makes it even better. Like it's just, I don't know.
And I always tell Briana, like, I'm so proud of my kids. Like, my kids are amazing, and my kids broke this curse. And that's why when my therapist was talking today about writing my story and then burning some of the pages because those are chapters in the past, I lost my shit because I was thinking what I wouldn't give to get rid of those memories. You know, I don't think about them that often, but when I do, it's really hard. But my kids are freaking awesome. And, you know, it could have gone the other way. It could have, you know, and my baby daughter, Morgan, is, you know, she's kind of newly single. So I've been like, oh my God, what if she meets a bad person and she becomes, you know, something happens, because I'm always terrified of that, even though Morgan doesn't even take anything but vitamins, or I don't even know if she takes vitamins right now, but Morgan's never, you know, had that addiction problem. But I'm scared that the wrong person could bring it into her life. And again, I want to clarify, I'm not blaming anyone but myself. But, you know, it's hard because it was really all I knew. And even the struggles with losing my kid, like my kids, me going to jail and stuff like that, that's the way I grew up. So it was like, it's devastating, it's horrible, but how do you change it? How do you fix it? And so today I can honestly say my kids are effing warriors, okay? My kids are warriors. And I don't know that they would be the women that they are had they not been through the things they've been through, because there's some 26 and 29-year-olds that you talk to that have not had these struggles, and they're not equipped for this world, you know, as well as my kids are. And not saying that makes it good, but and you know, all of us are strong. They've lost 2 siblings. Like, who does that happen to? Yeah. And you know, for a while I thought they were going to lose their mom. You know, they had pretty much, you know, I know that Briana had pretty much come to terms with that, but death is so final. You know, even with my mom, like when she died, you know, it's so final. And so,
and even if you think you're preparing yourself, when it's done, like, it's a different emotion.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Totally different emotion.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially if there was no closure. Oh, that would have messed you up, girl.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I know. And I think for me, for so long, it's like I've been expecting a phone call about my mom or my dad. I never expected a phone call about my brother and my sister, right? Like, and I still, to this day, I'm going to get a phone call any day about my dad. Any day. I
pray that doesn't happen, but, you know, I was estranged from my father when he died. We talked on the phone, but, you know, I was estranged from him pretty much. And it didn't make it easy. I still have my childhood memories of my dad. I don't know how many Briana and Morgan have, but
not many.
I had my therapist was like, what's the earliest thing you can remember? And I said when I was 4 and I was jumping on the bed and I was saying my ABCs and I said them all the way and my dad grabbed me and hugged me and threw me in the air. I still remember that. Aww. So, yeah, I always said my dad was not a bad man, but as he got older, he was very self-centered. And as he got older, it got worse, you know. But I forgive him. I forgive my mom. I'm working. That's the one person I have a hard time forgiving is Dawn, but I'm working on it. That's something that I'm working on. And all these things that I've been through in my life, I have never been to therapy till now.
Oh, so this is your first time seeing a therapist and getting it all out on the table.
Getting it all out, and then not just getting it out, but finding out why my brain was the way that it was. I was such a rule breaker. Like Briana can tell you, like I would we'd be in a restaurant and I just take some shit just because like there's a sign on the wall and it's just cool. I'm just going to take it and walk out with it. You know, I was just, klepto. It wasn't, because klepto is really a mental disorder where people have to take things even when they have money and stuff. The only time I stole is when I was on drugs. But but I was just a rule breaker. Like, I was scared of the police. And I was telling my therapist today, it breaks my heart because my daughter is 29 years old and doesn't do anything wrong, doesn't have a criminal record, but you let a cop get behind her and she's going to dance all over herself.
Yeah. I would quite literally piss my
even
pants.
though nothing's wrong, there's no warrants for her arrest, she just, and that hurts me because just now at 49, like, I'm not scared of the police. I deal with the police all the time. Like, I see them all the time. I talk to them all the time. Like, it's no big deal to me anymore because I know that
if a cop gets behind me, I'm taking the first turn.
You're done.
But that's because of the way that her childhood, and her mom would quite often run from the police, and she would sometimes be with me, and that was hard for her.
Sometimes. Quite often. I've been in the back of a police car more than most criminals, and I've
How
never.
many teddy bears you got? No, I'm just
Right?
kidding.
Yeah, they would always give us teddy bears to
That's terrible.
help us.
That's terrible. Yeah.
I'm like, you taking my mom and giving me a teddy bear? What the hell is this?
Oh,
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, that's the kind of things that I went through growing up.
That's why my kids don't have teddy bears.
Even
I'm just kidding.
Even though I knew that it was wrong, of course I knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
I knew right from wrong probably when I was 5.
yeah.
But I don't know why. I can't answer why I did what I did or why it took me this long to stop. But, I just, when I first went into recovery, I was like, I'm 48 years old. Like, I might as well be dead. Like, it's too late, and all this.
Okay, that's not old.
But now, no, it's not. I mean,
not old. But you have lived a life.
Yeah.
But yes.
I mean, after that whole story, you would think you're like 80 years old or something.
Yeah,
That was a long
now,
story.
Now, the way I look at it is I'm 49. I still have a lot of life.
Yes, you do.
I know, they don't like in recovery, you're not supposed to say, like, I'll never use again. But I know what leads up to it, and I know what to stay away from. So as long as I do that, then I'll be
Then you're
okay.
good.
Yeah. And as long as I'm going to have to keep recovery as a part of my life.
Yeah.
Probably not 5 meetings a week like I go to now, but it'll be,
Well, I wish you the best because I've seen the journey and
Yeah.
I've only seen it one-sided. So, I've been around you, but I've never heard you talk about any of this. So
Right.
I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Come on anytime. If you have any other stories, I just
might want
pop
to put a
on.
disclaimer on this before you
Trigger warning.
Trigger warning. If you're afraid of police officer or feds.
Yeah, I really didn't talk about specifics.
Yeah.
But I didn't use any names, but
Exactly. But if you ever want to come on and whoever knows of anybody with any publishing, we want to write a book. Well, not we. She wants to write a book.
I definitely want to write a book.
Maybe a movie comes out of it. 'Cause it's
Seriously.
fascinating.
It could be a Lifetime movie.
Totally
No joke.
could.
Definitely could be a Lifetime movie.
No joke.
Okay.
Because
Who do you want to play you in the movie?
I'm playing my damn self.
Okay. You'll be too old. You might be too old.
Okay. What actress do you want to play you as an adult, right now?
We're gonna get that Wednesday Adams girl to play you.
I knew you were going to say
Oh, that would be good.
Well,
Jenna Ortega.
Yeah.
Can I just say that? Like Sandra Bullock.
Okay.
I would think
Okay.
Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts. Yeah.
Yeah, you think she could?
That's something that my father told me that we related to her. I went to the same high school as her. I don't know that. I'm not saying that.
But you have the same last name.
But
If you're listening, Julia.
We went to the same high school and grew up in the same town. And my dad said that she was like a 5th cousin, but I've never met her. I don't know if that's true or not. But
You had the same last name?
yeah. But
And you went to the same school?
Yeah.
In the same town? Of course you're
like
related somehow.
she's a couple of years older than me.
Okay, there's
so,
a relation there, I'm sure.
yeah, I'm sure. So
Very cool. Julie Roberts.
but yeah, I don't know who we would get, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. No, but
I know.
my main thing is I've always wanted to write a book, but I couldn't write it until I had an ending. Because you can't write a book when you're still fucked up. Like, what is that going to do?
To be continued. Still high.
Yeah, someone actually said that to me one time.
Why not?
Why don't you write it and then you can finish? Like, you can do another.
you have a part 2.
Yeah, but no, I'm glad that I waited. And regardless, it's just really I want to help. I would love to help people that are children of criminals are going through the things, children of addicts that are going through.
Us.
You're healed in Jesus' name. Yeah. But people that are going through similar things, God, I wish I could have talked to my 20-year-old self. Oh my God, what I wouldn't give.
I mean, I think I've learned through reading and podcasts and all the things that I listen to. It's like we always want to look back to the past and shoulda, coulda, woulda, and that's just so detrimental to our spirit to go back. And I think until we learn that, okay, that's the past. Like you said, they're stronger for it. Yeah, you wish they didn't go through that to be this strong, but like there's lessons that we learn from it, and we have to like let it be and be the best version that we can moving forward.
That's right.
And I feel like once we figure that out, it's not easy moving forward, but it's easier to move forward.
Yes, I will say as a mother, obviously, like I wish we didn't go through that, but as a mother, there are things, especially a young mother, having my son so young, there are things with my kids that I don't feel like I would have appreciated so much. Like I can do something random, like go to Maddox's school and have lunch with him, and then his friends be like, oh, there's Maddox's mom, and that shit I cry every single time, because I'm like my kids have it different, right? Like, and so there are certain things that I appreciate now because of that. So thank you for.
Well, I would love.
I feel like both of my girls are freaking soldiers.
They're awesome.
They're soldiers. Because they went through all these things and they turned out like they did is a miracle to me.
Well, you're a soldier. You went through some shit.
Yeah.
You've been through some shit, and you feel like you're not
giving yourself enough credit.
That's the word. For what you've had to endure.
Yeah, I really have an issue with that, and that's something else I'm working on. But a lot of people judge me on like, oh, you're a criminal. It's really scary to tell people because people from my childhood would turn on me, and start saying, oh, well, don't let her, come to our house because she's going to, and things like that. But I am not that person. I'm not that person. I've never been that person, Like I said, I didn't steal from friends and family. That was some real stuff. Yeah. Like I've never been that person to take from someone that I loved or someone that I knew. Not that makes it any better, but I've always been a good person with a good heart. I just
just got wrapped up in with the wrong people
for some decades.
It's okay.
Well, I pray moving forward that we pick the right people, bring them to my house. I have a BS meter.
Okay, I do too.
And Bree does too.
Mine doesn't always work when I'm in a
I think yours has been broken.
Yours is broke.
It's better now.
But we'll fix it.
No, honey, yours is broke.
No,
so Briana and I will be the BS meter, and we'll put her through the ringer.
Okay.
But you have to promise if we see some red flags, she's out the door.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So the last man that I was with was my kid's father. It's been almost 20 years.
Wow.
So I definitely don't ever see
going back to
man coming into my life. No man in my life, but.
Well, I appreciate you two coming on. Come on anytime. If there's more stories that come up.
Thank you.
We're here for it.
There's only going to be good stories now.
Yes.
We'll be able to update you and tell you.
I love it. I love this. And you said there's no happy ending. This is a happy ending.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's still more work to be done, but don't poo-poo what you've already done.
Yeah,
don't poo-poo the progress.
I mean, it might not be healthy how close I am to my kids. I mean, I talk to my kids like 3 or 4 times a day.
Well, Briana does love the phone.
Yeah, I do.
She does love to talk to people 1,000 times a day.
I do. I'm not a texter. Somebody will text me.
And she'll call.
And I'll call.
I love
I can't stand to
I was like, oh shit, she's calling me.
And then if anybody gets on the phone with me, it's not just like a, hey, how you doing?
It's going to be a 5-hour conversation. Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm always like, okay, baby, well, I got to go. She used to tell me, Mom, that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be the other way around. But
consider yourself
we love
lucky.
you. We love you for it.
I can't help it.
I do. I love you.
I can't help it.
I love you.
All right, ladies.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Thanks.
Awesome. Bye.
I will leave you with this. Acceptance of the past does not mean that everything that happened was justified or right. It does not mean that you wanted it to happen that way. It means that you will no longer bear the weight of yesterday into today. It means that you'll no longer bring pain to your todays because of what happened before. And acceptance isn't really about yesterday anyways. It's about all of the days still ahead of you. It's about choosing to break free of your past, to live the most out of all the beautiful things that still lie ahead. Sometimes it's really hard to accept your past, but it's even harder to continue carrying your past with you. Thank you so much for listening to Virago 24/7. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and please give us 5-star ratings. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Virago24_7 and on Facebook at Virago24/7, and just connect with us and share your story. We'd love to hear from you.